Welcome to Just Break Up, the podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. My name is Sierra DeMulder.
And I'm Sam Blackwell. And today we're going to answer a letter from somebody who is falsely accused of being a homewrecker. But before we begin, we just want to give you our Surgeon General's warning, which is that Sierra and I are not licensed mental health practitioners.
We are not. We are not professionals. We are not trained in this. Although when you did that intro, I had a vision of like a Just Break Up court, where we're judges.
No, I like it. Yeah.
People would have to come up and here's your argument, here's your proof.
I was channeling my inner Nancy Grace there, just being
I'll be Judge Judy.
Casey Anthony, yeah.
Casey Anthony. Anyway, we're not professionals. We're not trained in this. So please take our advice as you see fit. We're only here to offer our humble musings to hopefully shed some understanding and maybe some laughs on the incredibly rewarding but mostly confusing experience that is love. All right, it's the first episode of the week, so we're going to do a check-in topic, and today's check-in topic is inspired by the internet and an article I found on it. So, the
internet. Have you ever heard of it? It's got like articles and stuff.
I don't even know her. I don't know.
Valiant attempt and really poorly executed.
Thank you. Wi-Fi. I don't even know her. What? People are literally clicking unsubscribe. I can hear the masses.
Why are these weirdos laughing so much about a dumb joke that both of our partners make?
Okay, here we go. So every 6 months, I literally Google dating trends to see if there's anything new and funny or problematic that we can unpack on the show. And today it's just a top 10 article. It's on flashpack.com called 10, quote, new dating trends anyone over 30 knows are BS. The age thing, all right. I think people under 30. Yeah, here we go. The intro to the article says there seems to be a new dating trend every other week explaining how Generation Z is getting it on in ways never conceived of before.
Okay, sure.
That's questionable. That's like when people are like, oh my God, all these new queer and trans people, as if that hasn't existed for eons.
For a long time.
The article goes on and says, except they're not. Here are 10 dating trends that people in their 30s and 40s will recognize as being very, very not new. Oh, I didn't read ahead. Okay. They're literally making...
We should read the articles before we do check-in topics about them in the future.
It's a listicle, so I just was scrolling. Okay, here we go. So a couple of these things on the list we already know about. The very first one is ghosting. Obviously, we know what the ghost is. You go on a date, maybe some dates, and then, maybe you have sex or hold hands or whatever. And then one of you goes totally silent. They ignore text messages, calls. And their social media accounts can no longer be stalked, or even worse, you can stalk them.
You can still stalk them, yeah. They're still there. Or they're still looking at all your stories on Instagram.
Oh my God,
even
cute.
Though they haven't spoken to you in 6 months.
Exactly. But this article has what it used to be called, back in my day.
Oh.
And this says what it used to be called, not calling. Track me to hell, you stupid listicle.
I love it. That's real. I was just thinking about probably this happened all the time.
How it used to happen exactly in the same way, but without social media blackout. Unless you lived in the same village or work in the same office. We feel like we jumped centuries in that. It's an easy way to walk out of a relationship for the cowardly and conscience free. It's shitty, but not new. Very good.
True.
Ghosting.
Very true.
All right. How would you react if you were ghosted right now? In this 2023, Sam?
I don't think I would react super well to it still. You know what I mean?
You haven't emotionally evolved past being pissed.
No. I think the enlightenment around it is but I would still be fuck this person.
Yeah. All right. Dating.
I think.
Go ahead.
No, and I think I would still have a reaction. Let's be honest about it.
Yeah. All right. Trend number 2. This is new to me. It's called Scrooging. And what it is being dumped dumping someone at Christmas or the holidays. This allegedly is a cruel thing to do because it, quote, ruins Christmas. And okay, I'm not drag me to hell, but this says what it used to be called is being sensible. Because how it used to happen was you'd approach Christmas and think, should I splash 100 pounds on this person I want to break up with?
Okay, we're in the UK.
Yeah. Should I spend half my jolly holidays wondering how and when I should ditch them? Basically being like, no, you shouldn't spend the holidays with someone you don't want to be with. Which I guess
That's
is
not a wrong thing to say.
I know. All right. Okay.
And honestly, if you like break up with them, maybe they'll do a house share with somebody in Los Angeles
God.
and have like an amazing time and meet a very
Hallmark
funny
movie.
Yeah, right.
Very cute. What if they switch houses with like somebody with a cottage in England and somebody like, you know,
and then your hot brother can like start dating them.
Or they go to the tree house, the tree farm. You know what I mean? Like the Christmas tree farm in the tiny village of Kentucky, even though she's a, you know, hardworking lawyer in the big city.
Denying someone a breakup before the holidays is denying them their Hallmark movie moment. And that's just not fair.
Put it on a t-shirt. That's it right there. Okay. The next dating trend is called vulturing. What it is, hovering on the edge of a dying relationship, hoping for the scraps when it all goes tits up. Love that this is a UK article.
Yeah, no, it's very good.
And what it used to be called is on the rebound or sloppy seconds. Don't like the slut shaming in that, but
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that kind of makes sense. But this is very similar to how it used to happen, just on a more local scene level. Social media makes it a lot easier to scan crippled relationships on a national or even international level. Who is doing that? Okay. Moving on from that weird.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever like waited for somebody's bad relationship to end so you could like swoop in and be like the shoulder to cry on?
I have done the more active version of waiting, which is called homewrecking. Are you saying I on the sidelines on the bench? No, I was in the game.
You were down there.
My love.
You were directing traffic.
Yes,
I was like, you go over there.
I was like, wow, that sounds really hard.
We should make out.
Yeah. Listen, we're all in our 20s once. Anyway, the next dating trend, number 4, is, I think we've done this on like a Patreon. It's called kitten fishing. Kitten fishing, which is pretending to be someone you're not on a date, like catfishing, but in the flesh. And what it used to be called, this article.
Is lying?
No, dating.
That is really true. That is,
yeah.
And this has
been
you
just pretend. Yeah, you fake till you make it.
All of the episodes of Seinfeld when they like lied about like being architects or whatever.
Oh my God,
how many times that like George had to pretend that like Jerry's apartment was Vandalay Industries or whatever. Like,
oh my God.
I grew up in a Seinfeld house, to be clear.
Yeah, no, everybody's just, like, house thinking is about Seinfeld house. Yeah.
Oh, like how toxic is that? And like, yeah, it's just like, why would you lie? Because you're going to be found out. Like that was always my experience. Or you're like hopeful,
you know, like I remember in new relationships, I would be like, oh, I'm just like not a jealous person. I'm like totally cool and chill.
That's funny. And they were like immediately like, they're like, you're already sweating.
Yeah, yeah. It's hot in here. Okay. Next one is breadcrumbing, which is another one that's familiar to me, I think, which is the article says that this is apparently the annoying habit of people, mainly men, not immediately or comprehensively telling people how much they like them, instead offering little tidbit compliments. And what it used to be called is playing it cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if Well, actually, this might be us like doing that therapy talk thing where we pathologize something. We're like, oh my God, they're breadcrumbing me, when they're just like taking their time or like.
No, but I think that there was like, when we were young, there was definitely a thing of like,
yes.
Don't come on too strong. You got to play it
You're
cool.
Totally right.
You know, like, right. Like that sort of vibe, which makes sense. And then now we're calling it breadcrumbing and like,
yes.
again, pathologizing it.
Yeah,
which, like it should be like playing it cool is not a great idea. And in a lot of different ways. So,
yeah. Okay. So dating trend number 6, which I had never heard of, but I like, is U-turns. When someone goes full pelt into a relationship, absolutely not breadcrumbing, but chucking the whole loaf and a couple of seeded baps at the person they're dating before realizing that they're not quite as keen as their sexual urges originally told their brain that they were.
Yep.
And that what it used to be called is getting carried away.
That's cute. That's
cute. Yeah.
No, I feel like now it would be called love bombing.
Oh, good one.
Mm-hmm.
No. U-turning. It's when you no. So yes, you U-turn after love bombing. Like U-turning would be like you go, love bomb.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Okay. Number 7, outsourcing. And it says people getting their friends to take control of their dating apps and profiles because they either think their friends will be wittier and make better decisions or because they're lazy.
Oh, God, okay.
Yeah. And now,
or dating is really hard and talking about yourself can be challenging and you want people who know you well to tell the other people what they know about you.
I recommend this. Like, I think
it's
your
helpful.
friends see you differently and they see different aspects of you that you don't necessarily like see.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like always give your dating profile to a friend and have them help you pick pictures because
absolutely, because they know your face better than you do.
Right. And you're like, I look great in this one in which I'm like obscuring half of my face and holding a book and trying to look smart. And they're like, no, do the one with the ass,
like,
girl.
show your whole face.
Yeah.
No face at all. Just
JK,
butt. I think that's the best way to go about it.
Anyway, the article said what it used to be called is getting your mate to tell your mate that you fancy them.
That's really true. That's cute.
Okay, date number 8. We got 3 more. Cookie jarring.
Yeah, we talked about this one too, and I have no memory of what it is.
Yeah, no idea. I was about to be like, I don't know what this is, so apparently I do. When you date someone and you maintain contact with potential alternatives or fallback options, what it used to be called hedging your bets.
Yep.
Yeah, this says how it used to happen is not only was this prevalent, it was a lot easier. No social media upon which to post photos of a suspiciously friendly encounter with the other. No way for the other to know that you were setting up dates with someone else. Expensive text messages making a slip of the thumb were far less likely. Oh, so what you're trying to say is, oh my God, that's so true. It's probably way easier to have an affair in like the 80s.
Probably, yep. Because like your location
and
wasn't
I'm talking
tracked
about like the
everywhere
1880s.
you went. Yeah, for sure. No, I feel like there's like we used to call this like they're putting me on the back burner, right? Like when it's like they're just like keeping me warm, they're keeping me at a simmer so that they can always come back to me and cook their noodles if they need to.
Okay, this is a funny one, or the article is trying to be cheeky. All right, cushioning.
Oh, great,
thank you.
Ooh.
Cushioning is called what it is: breaking up with someone in a nice way. This is a trend, apparently. Okay.
We're gonna get into this later this week.
And what it used to be called: being kind and probably lying. It says in parentheses.
So true.
Yeah. It says how it used to happen. An emotional but mature conversation in which the dumper would explain to the dumpy the reasons for the dumping and hope that once things had healed, they could remember why they once loved each other and use this as a foundation for a lifelong friendship. There might be some resistance, some attempts to persuade the dumper into a different course, but it's all very civilized. Either that or the dumper would say, it's not you, it's me, thinking that anyone would actually buy that line. Listen, I buy that line.
I buy that line.
Yeah.
And I have said it, and it has been true.
It's not me, it's not you, it's me and my feelings about you.
Yeah. It's not you. It's that I don't like you.
Yeah.
That's the issue here.
Okay, last one, which I'm interested to see fucking where they take this, is the new dating trend is talking. What it is, according to the Huffington Post, it is, quote, texting between two people who have a clear interest in one another in some romantic or sexual way, but who aren't ready to make anything official. Okay, that makes sense. You're like, oh, I'm talking to somebody new. What it used to be called is flirting. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I guess like listicles have to fill themselves, you know?
It's true. I feel like flirting is like something you can do with like lots of people, but like talking is like we're kind of on a trajectory.
I'm talking to somebody. Yeah, that means something to me. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Okay, well, that was now we're in the know. as we
Great.
apparently always were.
We were, and now we're in the know in a different way,
Yes,
which is exciting.
we knew, and now we know. I hate us. Okay, let's get into this week's letter.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Today's letter comes to us from not a homewrecker, just a bystander whose pronouns are she, her, who is writing to us from my neighbor's Midwestern house fire. Hello, Sam and Sierra. Let's get right to the pickles. I am a mid-30s-something basic bitch, cis-het female, she, her. A year ago, I met my friend, late 30s, cis-het male, he, him, through a niche hobby that we're both very passionate about. I'm going to refer to my friend as C. C is a wonderful, thoughtful goofball of a human being. We have a lot in common, and it's so fun to have someone to do this niche hobby with. Okay, time out, Tio. They don't describe what this niche hobby is, and I really want to know.
I know. I was like, pickleball.
Pottery. No, I don't know. You got to do it together. Yeah. Okay, so my mind always goes to something really obscure like
Bird watching.
Planking, or I don't know.
Planking.
Parkour.
My hobby is planking.
I don't know. Okay, here we go. I was feeling a little lonely after some recent friendship breakups and the isolation of the pandemic, so I'm extremely delighted to be friends with this person. I love our friendship and our deep, healthy emotional intimacy that has been naturally unfolding. Sounds like a non-pickle, don't you think? You'd think wrong. I feel like my friendship with C is causing a lot of discord in his marriage. C's wife has made it very clear that she does not like me and never will, and is blaming me for the deterioration of their marriage. To be abso-fucking-lutely crystal clear, I do not want anything beyond a friendship with C, and C feels the exact same way. We like our friendship, and we don't want that to change. I don't want to stop being friends, but I feel so guilty for adding unnecessary and unfounded turmoil in C's marriage. C and his wife got married in their extremely early 20s, and from what C has told me, it sounds like the relationship isn't very healthy. C has told me that his wife gets very upset when he has any female friends, and for whatever reason, I seem to be particularly upsetting and threatening. She makes C turn on his location tracker whenever we go out to do our niche hobby. Okay, so it's outside.
Yeah, it's bouldering. I think that's what it is.
To make sure that we're detectives, to make sure that he is where he said he would be. If he deviates slightly from where he's supposed to be, i.e. going to the gas station, or she feels like he has been out longer than she wants, she will bombard him with phone calls and texts accusing him of cheating with me. She's called me a homewrecker, a slut, a slutty side piece, the, quote, little girlfriend, and other unsavory names several times. C says that when she gets really upset, she will try to physically prevent him from leaving the house.
Oh, God.
I feel stuck, and I don't know what to do. I know it's not my relationship to manage, and C has reassured me several times that her behavior and feelings are not at all a reflection of me, and that he still wants to continue our friendship. I have offered to hang out with both of them so that she can get to know me a little bit better and see that I'm not a threat, but she refuses this. The pickles become even more pickled by the fact that C told me recently that he has been contemplating a divorce for the past couple years. This makes me feel even guiltier because I feel like I am the human equivalent of pouring gasoline on the house fire that is their marriage. C has reassured me that I'm not the cause of their relationship falling apart, but I still feel like part of it is my fault. What do I do? Is it unethical of me to continue our friendship? I think C is a wonderful human and deserves a loving and supportive romantic partner. So how do I become a supportive friend without overstepping boundaries? How do I navigate this in a way that is fair and respectful to both C and his wife? Is there something else I should be doing to help C's wife feel better and reassured that I do not want her man? Or am I just getting completely wound up in business that does not belong to me? Please excuse this long-ass letter. And also, please excuse the swearing. I just really fucking love cursing. Thank you for your help and insights. I am so appreciative of how you approach every letter with such genuine empathy, open-heartedness, and kindness. Sincerely, not a homewrecker, just a bystander.
What if the hobby is just like going out and drinking?
Clever, you
Just
clever,
kidding.
you clever bitch. Okay.
All right, not a homewrecker. Thank you so much for writing and for trusting us with this question. you're in a really hard place to be in, right?
Oh my God,
Because you're
the
not
hardest.
doing anything wrong and somebody is like really convinced that you are. And it seems like that person doesn't want to be convinced
Right.
of anything else besides the fact that you're trying to steal her husband and getting in the way of their relationship. And it can be really hard to be in a position where it's like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just being friends with this person. And
Totally.
yet you're sort of getting all of this vitriol and all of this angst from the person in the relationship, and appreciate that you have empathy for that, right? Like the recognition of like, I don't want to be doing anything wrong. I want this person to like me. I want, right. And sort of being met with some stubbornness around this. So I'm sorry that you're in this pickle. I'm sorry that it is so pickly. We're going to get into some advice and some musings in just a minute.
All right, my darling. I can't believe you were the first person to make an even more pickled joke. You know, that was very clever.
It's a very salty brine that you're in. You're getting especially pickled.
Yeah. But so kudos to you for that. And yeah, this is such a tricky situation to be in. But what is tricky about it is how to extricate yourself from the stress of it. You know, how you can have empathy for your friend. You can have heart boundaries in terms of like what you're not going to be available for, in terms of like, you're not going to be put in between the two of them. Mm-hmm. But again, this is not your relationship. I feel like you know this, you know that this is C's partnership with his wife, and this is his wife's toxicity and their baggage or whatever. But there's some sort of like nagging guilt in you of like, I should be doing something to fix this. And I'm going to do that thing that I fucking always do, which is be like, where did you learn? Where did you learn that you needed to accommodate everybody's needs and feelings? I'm not going to wallow on this point for too long because like, I don't think it's that deep, but also this response that you're having, this idea that like, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't have this friendship, or I feel so guilty. I am the gasoline on their house fire. You're taking this really, really personally. And that makes a lot of sense to me as somebody who has empathy for my friends and what they're going through. But you are going to have to figure out a different new way to carry this, because like you said, this friendship isn't unethical. And to our listeners that are like, I don't know, you're obviously like causing something in their marriage. If you think it's unethical, then I challenge you to question the ideas you have about ownership, about independence in partnerships. Like, C is allowed to have friends that are of the opposite gender and sex. Like, that is a right that he has, that is being incredibly threatened by his spouse's pain and insecurity. And that's sad to me. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it would be, it would be a not a different story, but like a slightly changed story if there weren't also all of this behavior by his wife that is like really deeply problematic and I would say is probably emblematic of like something that is deeper than just the fact that he has a friend that is of the gender that he would be attracted to.
Exactly.
Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, you can have crunchy, uncomfortable feelings about your spouse or partner being friends with somebody that you might be a little jealous of. And it's very different than being like, that person's a homewrecker, that person's a slutty side piece.
Yeah.
I'm going to physically prevent you from leaving the house. I'm going to track your location. I'm going to berate you and barrage you with text messages.
There's a lot going on there, yes.
Right? Like, there's definitely more here than just the fact that like you came into this person's life, right?
Yes.
Like, this is a deeper sort of core issue. So like, right, you might be maybe fanning the flames of this relationship inadvertently, right? Because you're just like over here fanning yourself and like it's kind of like getting on this house, but the house itself has already crumbled. You know what I mean? Like the foundation is wrecked, like everything's on fire. There's like it doesn't seem like there's a lot of saving this relationship.
Yes.
So I don't want you to look at the flames and say like, I created that. I want you to look at the flames and say like, wow, that's a house on fire. I wonder how that got started.
And I want to go like a step farther with that metaphor and say that the house was on fire before you met C.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
there is literally no. You can't be like, oh my God, I started this fire by fanning my face because the fire was hot, or just because it's hot outside. And again, if you're a listener and you're like, I don't know, like there's definitely some cause and effect here. Sure, you can say, wow, the letter writer's existence is causing this person to act this way. But the point I want to make is that this could be anybody. This yes. literally has nothing to do with the letter writer, because it could be any other person who is of the other opposite gender or sex or a threat to the relationship. Like, yep. So that's why if the common denominator is not our letter writer and is in fact the wife with her feelings of jealousy and insecurity, then it's not actually about this friend, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Like it's the idea that you sort of came in and are like making this happen is not true. And the fact that you are doing something 100% innocent in proximity of this house fire doesn't mean that you caused the house fire, right?
Yeah.
Like you didn't throw a match on it. You didn't pour gasoline on it. Like all you're doing is like standing next to it and somebody is saying, look what you caused. Look what you look what you did. And I just want to say that, like,
oh my God.
yeah, right. Like you little side piece.
Oh God. It felt dirty to even read out loud.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. All of this to say, right? Like, even though you're doing nothing wrong, even though like I believe you that this is all innocent, and I firmly believe that people can be friends with people that are right. Like just like period. Right. I also recognize that this is a really sticky situation for you to be in, right? Like even though you are not in the wrong in any way, it can still definitely feel like it, and it can still also be really uncomfortable to be in relationship with somebody whose partner hates you.
That is a great
like,
point. That it's uncomfortable.
Right? Like, mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things that I would consider for you is, how are you taking care of yourself in moments where you are having this like panic around like, am I doing something wrong? Am I doing something
mm-hmm.
wrong? Like, what are the things that you are telling yourself? How are you holding yourself in that to say, I'm just being friends with this person. That's the only thing that I'm doing, right? It is not my fault that this relationship is so toxic. I did not cause this. I am just peripheral to it, right? Like I am just standing on the sidelines of it, being accused of something, right? Like, how are you holding yourself in that? And then I would say, like, how are you talking to C about sort of how this is making you feel in this situation as well, right? Like, I understand that like it's his relationship and that you're not really related to her, but I also think that this is something that you could say to him around like, it's really hard to be in this position where your wife really hates me and we're not really doing anything wrong. And I don't need you to fix anything or do anything differently. Like, I just want to name that and like make sure that we're still operating in the boundaries of what's okay for us, right? Like, if we're ever getting to a point where we are crossing something or where it is being inappropriate, like, I want us to be able to talk about that, because I'm not interested in contributing to any of the narrative that's going on here, but I still really do want to be your friend.
Yeah. I have a little bit of a side story. One time I was like blatantly, wrongfully, inappropriately accused of like flirting with someone in like a professional relationship by his wife.
Oh yes, I remember this. This was
so toxic.
A real thing.
It was so fucking toxic because it couldn't have been. I swear on my fucking baby's life that it couldn't have been farther from the truth. I had no interest in this person. There was no romance, no flirting, whatever. This person, it was
like a very professional relationship that you had with this person.
Yes, and his wife was just like the description here was like irrationally insecure and jealous, and was not in the realm of adult rational behavior. Let's just say that. Mm-hmm. And I remember explaining to somebody once what happened. Like, she had sent me like a really inappropriate cruel text message, basically calling me a homewrecker. And I was like, where the fuck is this coming from? Because it was unprompted too. I had like literally texted him that I was going to be late to work because my house was broken into. And
God, yeah.
yeah, it was so fucking weird. Anyway, so all the backstory is literally unnecessary.
Remembering, like, just like talking to you on the phone about this for like hours. Because what is happening?
My house was broken into. I texted him at like 5:30 in the morning that I was going to be late because I had to deal with it and I was going to go back to sleep. And then I woke up to like a text from her on his phone number that was like, "You're a home wrecking piece of shit," or something like that. And it was just so bizarre. Whatever. The backstory, the more story about it, I could tell you more. It's just not important. Subscribe to our Patreon to get the juicy details.
Okay. All right. We got our next Patreon episode lined up.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was explaining what happened to, I was explaining this dynamic with a friend or like a different colleague who was in a different part of my life, like a poetry part of my life. And she had like a totally different approach to it. Like I was trying to be professional. I was trying to like stay away from this woman who, one, I didn't have a relationship with, I didn't work with, you know, I hadn't had more than 2 conversations with her. And I was like, wow, you are obviously unstable. I'm not going to like participate in this conversation because I don't want to fuck your husband, you know? But she was like, oh, you should just text her and be like, no, you misunderstood. Like, I have no interest in your husband. Like, this isn't what you think it is. And it was so clear on her side to be like, just tell her, like, this is not it. But from my perspective, I was like, this woman is irrational and toxic. And like, I don't want to talk to this person. Like they seem really unsafe. Sure. Right.
Yeah.
But I never forgot about that woman's advice of just like say something to her. And I didn't, because I didn't think saying something to her would do anything. It wouldn't like change. We're not talking in the same world. We're not talking in the same conversation, you know?
Right. Yep.
But I wanted to bring that to this conversation and be like, well, what do you think? Is there a world in which the letter writer says, I don't want your husband, like you need to like chill? For me, the answer is no, because that is inserting yourself. And it is also going against the instinct of like, I don't know, this person's comments to me seem very unhealthy. And so I don't want to have a conversation with somebody who is unhealthy and being really disrespectful to me in the meantime, who's not interested in talking or getting to know me, you know?
And she like is refusing to hang out with her, right? Like, so there's definitely a little bit of like, I'm firmly in my camp and I know that this is a bad thing that's happening and you're like cheating on me with this homewrecker and I will never be convinced of anything otherwise.
And also like it sounds hella sexist. So like, I don't want to be friends with a sexist. You know what I mean? That's
also real. But yeah, I think if I were you, I would try and remain as uninvolved in all of this stuff as possible. And I would think for you also about like, what are the boundaries around like, what do you want to hear about the situation from C as well, right? Like they can be like, we can talk about what's going on in your relationship. I'm happy to do that. I don't want to hear the things that your wife says about me, right? Like, I don't want to hear that you're calling me, or that she's calling me like a slutty little side piece. Like, that's not good for me. But if you want to talk about the fact that she is jealous, or she was like trying to prevent you from leaving, or she's been tracking your location, like that kind of stuff is fine. So like, you can decide sort of where the boundaries are with this friend as well, about like how deeply you want to get involved in, or not even involved, how deeply you want to hear about.
Yeah, because you're not involved. That's a great way.
Situation,
great
you're
clarifying.
Not involved in it, right? Mm-hmm. You are just going to do this bouldering or whatever with your friend.
Cross stitch, not CrossFit. Cross stitch. Just to add to that too, of like, your friend's gonna need you.
What if it's tornado chasing?
Oh my God. Do you know they're coming out with a new Twister movie? Like
a remake or a sequel?
A sequel? I'm not sure.
Like with Helen
No.
Hunt's? It can't be
No.
with Bill.
No.
What's his name? Because he's dead.
No.
So, or Philip Seymour
I'm
Hoffman. 'cause
thrilled.
He's dead.
I know, it's so sad. I'm thrilled that movie lives in infamy in my brain, in my child brain.
It's good. It's still good.
I literally just recently sent the trailer to Spencer, and I was like, this trailer alone is cinematic gold. So rewatch it. Tangent, going back. Listen, letter writer, not homewrecker, observer, whoever you are. Your friend's going to need you when he goes through a hella toxic, hella messy divorce in a couple years.
Also that, yep.
So, just keep that in mind. Like, you're a good person. You are in a good friendship. We all deserve friendships. We deserve non-romantic, non-sexual, emotional intimacy with other humans. That is very natural. It's not just natural. It's a blessing. What a blessing this friendship is. It's sad and frustrating that as humans we can hurt each other so much, but it's not your relationship. I want to end with one really quick story and one really like a mantra that comes from the story and a plug. We on our Patreon. Yeah, I'm just gonna end with three ram things. It all. It's all one story. It fits. Got it. We're all over the place with this episode. Listen, so we've been doing these Just Break Up office hours over on our Patreon. If you're a subscriber for $10 a month or an annual level for any amount, we've been doing these monthly Zooms where Sam and I hang out and we answer your questions live. It is so fun. We always text afterwards how it like fills up our cup. If you're one of the people who attends, it's like only like 20 people every month or whatever. But if you're one of the people who attend, you know what we're talking about. We love you so much. And last week, somebody asked a really great question about like a relationship that her loved one was in that was really tricky and how she was really stressed about it. And that they were making choices in the relationship that were really stressful and frustrating and sad. And she was really anxious about them. And we left her with the mantra, like, these are not my logistics. Like, her loved one was moving with this person and it was like a bunch of really stressful logistics, she said. And I told her, like, the thing you're going to say to yourself is, these are not my logistics. This is not my relationship. This is not the thing I'm going to fixate on, because the fixating tells us that we need to fix it, that we need to prevent it. We need to prevent suffering. We need to prevent stress. We need to help these people, save these people. That is all on our shoulders. But it's not your logistics. It's not your relationship. It's not your divorce. And so I just want you to say that to yourself. And my plug is Sam and I's birthday. We share a birthday. It's coming up on June 2nd, but on May 30th, we're going to have our next Just Break Up office hours, and we're opening it up to everybody. So if you subscribe for $5 a month, you not only get a backlog of like 30 billion extra episodes
so many
at this
episodes.
point, you get to join us for a live Zoom Q&A hangout for our birthday on May 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern. These are really fun. They're really intimate. We opened it up to everybody in over the holidays, and that was really fun. So we're doing it again for our birthday, May 30th. Sorry about the plug in the middle of your letter.
All right, homewrecker. Remember what's your
not a homewrecker,
which is that. Remind yourself that this is not your relationship. Remind yourself that being friends with someone is not a bad thing to do. Remind yourself that it is not your job to fix this woman's perspective of you,
right,
of your relationship. And I hope that the friendship that you have with this person continues to grow, continues to flourish. And I also just want to say that you're allowed to talk about what you want to talk about, and you're allowed to say that some things are off the table.
Yes.
But remember that you are not doing anything wrong in this situation, and that we support you and love you and hope that you can find a way to navigate this friendship in a way that's going to be fulfilling for both you and for C.
Absolutely. All right, my darling, we love you so much.
Thank you so much for writing.
We hope this helps. Okay, friends, actually, time out for a second. This is Sierra and Sam recording a totally different session that we decided to insert into this episode days after we had recorded this letter, because Spencer, aka Big Cats, our phenomenal producer and friend, texted us and was like, I feel like there's something missing from this response, from the conversation. And Sam and I totally agreed. So we wanted to add a little bit more to our response, and we're doing it with the help and guidance of our awesome producer, Spencer. Hi, Spencer.
Hi. Thanks for
Also, everybody loves it
on.
when you join an episode because they think you're smart and charming and talented and you have a sexy voice.
Everyone thinks that? That's
it's a rule. If you listen,
It's like the number
if you
one
listen
comment
to
we
our
get
podcast,
about
you have to think those things. Sorry, I don't make the rules, except for I absolutely do. Okay, so why don't you introduce some of the thoughts that you had, which we all agree with.
Sure. As I was listening to the episode, I was just thinking about a couple specific things that the letter writer mentioned, like her friend's spouse not letting him, like physically preventing him from leaving the house, or tracking his location and aggressively confronting him about it, or it was unclear, maybe doing so without his consent. And some of those things just really stuck out to me as at least potentially abusive behaviors. And I wanted to have a conversation about that, because I think that context is important,
right,
in terms of what advice we might give this letter writer. I thought the advice that you two gave the letter writer was really good and on point. I just also thought that there might be a bigger picture here, which might include my friend might be in an abusive relationship, and it sounds like they might actually be having some trouble trying to leave that abusive relationship, and that might impact what advice we would give this person and how this person can support their friend. So I just wanted to sort of open up that part of the conversation too, and maybe broaden our context a little bit within which we're responding to our letter writer.
Yeah. And I think that's a great addition to the conversation, particularly because of the limited representation we have of, hetero presenting couples experiencing abuse, in which the person experiencing it is the man. And so like that comment is there, or that experience already has such little commentary around it. And I think you're totally right to be like, it's regardless of whether or not we know what's going on in that relationship, it's important to point out, like, this sounds like abuse. This sounds like control tactics that are abusive and are rooted in power and control. And I think that makes the situation just that much more difficult, because as we've said on past episodes, it's really hard to watch the person you love, even in a friend context, be in a relationship like that and potentially be unsafe, particularly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Because then the conversation necessarily has to be different, because it's not just like, oh, don't tell me about this stuff, but instead has to be like, hey, I'm seeing this stuff and I'm also like really uncomfortable with what's going on here. And so it just kind of changes the dynamics of like whether or not this person feels like he can't leave, or whether or not he feels like he's being actively controlled. So like to the letter writer, I think I would advise to even like ask questions about that, to see sort of how he's feeling about the situation, and understand like if he needs help to get himself out of this relationship that is really, really problematic. Because that is something that I would want to do for a friend who I was seeing being controlled by somebody else. But that's also a really hard place to be, because there's not much that we can actually do to fix the situation or change the situation as somebody who's on the outside of it.
Yeah, I think we were kind of looking at it from this person doesn't like me. There's maybe some jealousy going on. Maybe they're just sort of generally a dick, which could definitely be true. But I think there were also some tones of this person might potentially be in an abusive relationship. And, it's not totally clear to me from the letter which of those is the case or if it's some amount of both. And I think they sort of require different or could require different approaches. And unfortunately, I don't have any great concrete advice on what to do if that is the case, that your friend is indeed in an abusive relationship. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't skipping past that, especially, Sierra, to your point. I think men often struggle to be heard when they do share these types of things. And so I just wanted to make sure that we weren't also doing that in this case. If one of you told me that you couldn't hang out because your spouse was physically preventing you from leaving the house, that would be really concerning. I think that goes well beyond jealousy or, not being comfortable around one of your spouse's friends or something. Like, to me, that is a very different scenario. And I think it also points to maybe a different underlying root cause of whatever is going on here instead of just jealousy or whatever it might be. I think one of you in your response said something to the extent that, like, this could be anyone here in the letter writer's position. I don't think it's uniquely the letter writer that is upsetting to this spouse. I think this situation would have happened with any close friend of a gender that their spouse was attracted to. And to me, that's indicative of something maybe bigger than just a relational issue. I think if I found myself in a situation like this, my first concern would be to try and make sure that my friend was safe,
Sam, can you give me some examples of some of those like compassionate questions that you might ask? Like, I'm thinking about what Sam just said, or Spencer just said, of like, do you feel like safe enough that you could leave this relationship physically? Things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. I think that, as he is telling the letter writer about his experience of like, I don't know, she's tracking me and she can see that we like went a different way than I told her we were going to. Like, you can just ask questions about like, how does it make you feel when she does stuff like that, right? Or you could even say like, wow, that sounds really concerning to me, right? Like, if I were in a relationship and someone were tracking where I was going, I would feel really unsafe. Like, how are you feeling about the fact that that's happening right now? And again, it's like about how can you be curious while also compassionate, but also like, you don't have to normalize the behavior, right? You don't have to say like, oh, haha, good. Like that's fine, right? You can say like, oh, if that were me, I don't think that would make me feel good, right? Like, I'm concerned about the things that she's doing and how she's talking to you. And like, you can sort of say that kind of stuff out loud, but it's also like not the letter writer's job to fix this relationship or to get him out of it, right? Like, she can certainly be a conspirator in that if he asks her to, but it's also like, she has little control over whether or not this relationship ends or changes or becomes healthy or any of that. But she doesn't also have to sit there and observe it without saying her own piece around what it feels like to be in the situation with him.
Yeah, that's challenging. Like I said earlier, like, it's very challenging to see people we care for be in situations that hurt them and, are stressful for us as well.
And you also like don't want to prove the spouse right either. You know what I mean? Where like the spouse is like has this conspiracy theory that like she's trying to break up the marriage, and then like sort of comes in and is like, this marriage is really unhealthy. Like if it is unhealthy in the ways that we're sort of talking about here, like
Yeah.
It's not that you're a homewrecker in the situation. You are just like the bystander when it comes to seeing a friend in a relationship that's either toxic, abusive, however the person in it might describe it. And so part of it is like, you don't have to take on the blame for the deterioration of this marriage, regardless of whether it is abusive or toxic. And instead recognize that like your role here is just to support the person that you are friends with in either maintaining this relationship, if that is what he wants to do, or in helping him get out of it. But you can do that in a way that lets you speak your piece as well and sort of name that that's not working for you. But it's just a tricky situation to be in like lots of different ways.
I'm kind of like, this letter has like, stewed in me since we answered it, however, like a week ago or whatever. And I'm over this partner. Mm-hmm. I like Spencer's right. This is textbook abuse tactics, number one. Number two, this jealousy charade, like this, the fear that the friend has of like not wanting to be the homewrecker archetype that the significant other is painting her as, honestly, is another control tactic. Like this wife doesn't want her super toxic behavior to be known. So like I'm at this point in my advice, which obviously changes and matures like a fine wine or deteriorates.
Sure.
I don't have a lot of patience for the spouse. Because we're all grown adults here, and I'm thinking about the ways in which she's trying to isolate her husband and isolate him physically and emotionally. Like, I don't know, just going back to the example I shared in the episode, which you guys are listening to presently, but we're talking about in retrospect. The example about like, should I just text this boss's wife and be like, I don't want your husband, I think Spencer brought up something when we were talking privately about this, just that like, it's very obvious that this significant, it's obvious that you cannot expect a rational response from this significant other, I don't do with that as you will, which is like maybe not include her on your processing of this tricky situation. Does that make sense?
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Well, everybody, thanks, Spencer. Thank you, Spencer, for adding this point to our episode, and we'll go back to the other recording right now.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like more content from us, or if you would like access to ad-free episodes, you can support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon for as little as $5 a month, you'll get an additional bonus weekly episode. And if you support us for $5 a month, you'll also be able to join us for our office hours on May 30th to celebrate Sierra and my birthday.
Sam is coming of age. He will be turning 18.
Yeah, and Sierra's turning 100.
All right, you can slide into our DMs, send us your favorite relationship memes, but most importantly, you can submit your questions about all matters of the heart at justbreakuppod.com, which is also where you can find our merchandise.
Please remember to like, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review. This literally keeps our mics on and helps us reach more brokenhearted souls who need two random strangers giving them relationship advice. Just Break Up is a production of Duvida Media, original music recording, editing, producing, all magical things by our good friend Spencer Worth Davis. Make sure to check out his podcasts and his music over on Spotify. And remember, all of your worry and your stress often don't actually help the person that you're worrying and stressing for. Take a deep breath. Remind yourself what you can and cannot control, what is and is not within the realm of your responsibility. It's not your relationship. It's not your logistics. And if all else fails, just break up.